I moved to Oak Ridge Estates for peace. After years of grinding in the tech world, building a startup, and selling it for a decent chunk of money, I wasn't looking for anything extravagant. Just a little space. Some quiet. Somewhere far from the constant hum of office phones and meetings about quarterly projections. My plan was simple: get a house, live easy, and enjoy a few years of freedom. The neighborhood I chose was the kind of place where things ran like clockwork. Houses were meticulously kept, lawns trimmed like they had a personal stylist, and the occasional golf cart would zip by. The residents? Well, they seemed like the perfect fit for someone like me, older folks, mostly retired, enjoying the quiet life with little more to worry about than whether the roses were blooming on schedule. I'd found my haven. At least, that's what I thought. It all started on my third week there. I was out front trimming some grass, really, just taking in the peaceful vibe when she showed up. Nancy Harris, late 60s, perfectly pressed linen shirt, a smile that was as calculated as the gap between her teeth, and a presence that immediately screamed power. She wasn't just any neighbor. No, she was the HOA president. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she was just another person checking on the new guy. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said with that smile of hers, extending a hand that was more for inspection than greeting. After a few pleasantries, she casually mentioned that the neighborhood was looking to build a wellness and terrace spa, lap pool, the works. Nothing big, she said, just something to enrich the community. My gut told me something wasn't right about it, but I politely brushed her off. "I appreciate the thought, Nancy," I said, "but I'm just here to relax. No big projects for me." She didn't take it well. I could see the change in her eyes, a flicker of coldness, like a switch being flipped. But she masked it with a smile, and I thought that would be the last of it. A week later, the letter came. You know, the kin cream-colored, embossed with the fancy HOA logo like it was some sort of invitat ion to a country club. But it wasn't an invitat ion. It was a demand. It laid out all the reasons why they believed I should sponsor the community spa, complete with a budget breakdown that nearly made my jaw drop. Due lost $640,000 for a spa, a lap pool, a sauna, and I was supposed to foot the bill because, well, I was the new guy with the resources. And apparently, this would be my gift to the community. At first, I laughed. Then, I called my lawyer. She read it twice, then chuckled herself. "This isn't enforceable," she said, but she paused. "But it smells like pressure." So I did what any reasonable person would do when faced with a demand veiled as a friendly request. I sent a formal, polite refusal. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. I figured that would be the end of it. But no, that was just the start. 5 days later, I got the first violation notice. Apparently, my house didn't match the approved color palette for the neighborhood. The nerve, right? The color on my house? Sandstone taupe. It was the exact shade listed under the HOA's own guidelines. But according to them, my house had somehow deviated from the approved parameters. Next came another notice. My secondary carport, the one I'd built for my guest vehicle, was unauthorized. Never mind that I'd submitted plans for it during escrow, and the HOA had approved it in writing. They couldn't care less. And then, the whispers. I saw Nancy talking to a couple of neighbors behind my house, gesturing with exaggerated disappointment. I caught a glimpse of people with clipboards, inspecting my yard, taking notes. Every time I turned around, there was something else. A letter. A fine. A new complaint. It felt like a war being waged with no explanation. But it wasn't just about the spa anymore. I realized that much. It was about control. And Nancy Harris wasn't interested in a wellness center. She was after power. And I wasn't going to give it to her. So, I did what any guy with nothing but time on his hands would do. I started digging. I hired a lawyer, and we began looking into the HOA's records. It didn't take long to find cracks in the foundation. Turns out, Nancy and her board had been playing fast and loose with the rules for years. Elections that weren't legal, meetings that didn't follow proper procedures, and financial records that didn't add up. It was like peeling back layers of a rotting onion. And at the center of it all was Nancy, who had been operating as if she owned the place. Her term as president had expired months ago, but she hadn't let anyone vote for a new one. And the HOA's financials? Well, they hadn't been updated in over 4 years. And then, just when I thought I'd seen it all, I found something else. A small piece of land right at the edge of the neighborhood, next to the park. No one had paid much attention to it, but I did. And I realized it wasn't part of the HOA's holdings. It was unclaimed, sitting there, collecting dust. I bought it. Quietly. With a few calls and a couple of legal maneuvers, I owned that patch of land. And now, I had the leverage to do something that Nancy wasn't going to expect. The following week, I posted signs on that land, private property. No trespassing. And just like that, I had the community's attention. Nancy, of course, tried to make it a personal battle. She called, tried to intimidate me, but I was ready for her. I'd done my homework, and I had my lawyer on speed dial. But the real turning point came when I used the HOA's own bylaws against them. I gathered signatures from other residents who were fed up with Nancy's rule. We called for an emergency meeting. And when that day came, we laid it all out: the rigged elections, the shady finances, the misuse of power. I handed out the proof mails, contracts, documents, and let the silence speak for itself. The vote wasn't even close. Karen, the queen bee of the HOA, was out. But she wasn't done. Oh no. She filed a lawsuit, claiming I had used coercive tactics to take over the neighborhood. But when that case hit court, it was over in 10 minutes. The judge saw right through her, dismissed the case, and that was the end of her reign. But I didn't stop there. I continued to dig into the HOA's finances. And what I found? Well, it just kept getting worse. Missing funds, kickbacks, bribes. Karen's whole operation was a house of cards, and I had just knocked it over. By the time I was done, I owned 60 fan tram of the land in the neighborhood. Everything Karen had claimed as community property was now mine. I didn't gloat. I didn't send out a big announcement. I just quietly made sure the neighborhood ran smoothly better, actually without Nancy's thumb on everyone's neck. And then, the Ridge House was born, the wellness center. But here's the twist: it wasn't just a spa for the rich and powerful. It was a place for the community. Residents got discounts, seniors got free access, and the profits went straight back into neighborhood improvements. Nancy's house went up for sale not long after the trial. No one knows where she went, but her empire crumbled. And Oak Ridge Estates? It became the place I'd always dreamed of: peaceful, fair, and actually a community again. As for me, I don't need a VY Tory lap. But when I walked by the Ridge House, I stopped for a moment and touched the plaque I had installed. It says, "Trust is earned, not assumed." And that's the truth of it. So what do you think? Was I wrong for fighting back? Was Karen just doing her job? Or was this all a power grab? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take.